story, y'all. With COVID cases climbing like a gentrifier at an indoor rock wall and the loser in Cheeto missing in non-action, Americans are torn over whether to celebrate Thanksgiving or not. 7 governors are being worthy of my retweets by asking people to stan the CDC guidelines. But South Dakota's governor showed that although she's beautiful on the outside, she still has a lot of internal work to do when it comes to mask mandates.
I don't want to approach a policy or a mandate just looking to make people feel good. I want to do good and actually put forward provisions that make a difference for families.
Honestly, if a scientist told me I had to pour water on myself because I'm on fire and I'm setting everyone around me on fire, I'd be like, okay, pervert, you just want to see me in a wet t-shirt?
I'm being responsible and limiting my apartment to the 40 people in my Park Slope pod. Everybody will have to swear not to have COVID, and I am doing vibe checks at the door.
Okay, there is some good news in all this. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is still happening, so I don't know, maybe Trump is actually doing a good job?
I was going to surprise you, Kylie, but I made a balloon of you.
Brian, that is so freaking sweet. Ew, Brian, do you think I'm 35 feet long? Sorry, this makes me really uncomfortable.
Sorry, I'll never make a balloon of you again.
I mean, you can, just make it accurate, like make it look teeny tiny like I am. Moving on, treasonous cheese man Trump is getting absolutely ghosted by the election. For more, let's bring in New York Times cybersecurity reporter Nicole Perlroth. Thank you for joining us, Nicole.
Thanks for having me, Kylie.
Now, Nicole, you've been covering President Trump's firing of his adorkable cybersecurity chief, Chris Krebs. How has this firing left America vulnerable besides my Raya profile pics getting hacked so guys not on my level inexplicably think I'm on their level?
Great question. So I think at this point, we're basically firing the guy who made sure that there wasn't any foreign hacking interference in the election. And unfortunately, one of the things that Chris Krebs was doing really well was combating a lot of the disinformation around the election, much of which was coming from the White House itself, which is why he got fired.
Now, we're not talking about the hackers going after down-ballot races. I lost my race to join my co-op board, and not because of my campaign to make every resident only play games with their children in which whoever's the most quiet wins a day-long nap.
The debate over disinformation spilled into the Senate, where the Judiciary Committee questioned tech leaders, including Mark Zuckerberg, aka Mark Aspadonkadonberg, face like a robot but body got a whoa-bot Tom. I'm gonna do some surveillance on that capital A ass with my buttnoculars. Here's what he said while holding on rodeo style to that wild plump dumper.
We also have broader policies in place around trying to slow the spread of misinformation more broadly, even when it's not going to lead to some kind of violence or imminent harm. And that's why we've created this independent fact-checking program where we work with more than 80 partners around the world to help do fact-checking.
That's Marky Mark and the Bubble Butt, serving up some euphemism realness, using the words work with instead of pay to blind you to the conflict of interest. Now, Nicole, is Zuckerberg doing enough to stop disinformation, considering the top 10 posts are consistently Dan Bongino claiming Trump won 5 new red states no one knows about?
It's a really good point. He's not doing enough to curb disinformation. If you look at a lot of the content that's had the highest engagement since the election started, and how much of that is disinformation, the bulk of the content we're seeing around the election on Twitter, on Facebook, is about disinformation. Again, most of it coming from Trump himself.
I mean, these claims about stopping disinformation do not seem accurate at all. One Facebook user got this past the so-called fact checkers: Kylie Weaver's head probably smells like a scallion. Or this false statement: Kylie Weaver just messaged me about the scallion thing, OMG, LOL. Stop searching your own name, loser. Or this clear Russian disinformation: Kylie Weaver tracked down where I work and called my boss. It's 4 a.m. Walk away from the Chardonnay. Wow. These troll farms are out of control. Let's move on from Cheeto news and move on to news about the Cheetos election. We now have a special report from investigative correspondents Rajat Mehta and Jeremy Levy-11. Thanks for joining us, boys.
No,
Don't
thank us.
Do not
It's our
thank
journalistic
us.
duty.
It's our duty.
Thank you.
Got it. What do you have for us?
Yeah, there's a lot of disinformation out there that
That's
the
right.
company Dominion
Dominion voting systems. That's
changed
right.
votes from Trump to Biden, which is absolutely
It's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
So untrue.
It's ridiculous. Super untrue.
And Nicole, you can confirm that, right?
That's right. So there were some hiccups that happened on election day, which are normal. But in 5 of the counties that had some of these glitches, only 2 of them used Dominion. In 1, it was actually human error that caused some of the problems, and that was fixed.
Right. And some of the human error in the jamming. Rajat, do you want to talk about what that was?
Yeah, I think Nicole was about to say this. What really happened is the Democrats were having sex with the ballot scanners.
Right, because each thrust knocked an additional vote into the Biden tally.
Exactly.
OMG, wow. Okay, it's so scary that can happen.
Yeah, totally.
Very
And
scary.
again, Nicole was about to say that the kinkier machines kind of liked it from the sides from the Democrats, and
Right, and there were a
Yeah.
lot of threesomes as well, and I think Nicole
Totally.
was alluding to this a little bit, but at one point, 2 of the machines started making out with each other.
started making
Wow,
out. That's
wow,
right.
wow. Now, Rajat, Jeremy, Nicole, can any of the 3 of you speak to whether or not the cybersecurity community anticipated this?
We actually talked to Nicole right before this election, and Jeremy,
Yeah,
do you
and
wanna,
she predicted that, this is a disagreement we had, she
This is-
predicted that the voters wouldn't be generous enough lovers for this to be a problem.
Exactly. Nicole, do you want to talk about how the voters maybe hit it right, or
I wasn't actually aware of any of these kinky sex issues that happened, but the good news is that they put a lot of redundancies in place this year. So even if there were glitches on election day or people were having kinky sex near the ballot scanners or what have you, they were going to have paper printouts.
yeah?
It was not exactly kinky sex near the ballot scanners.
It was with the ballot
That was the
scanners.
problem. It was with the ballot scanners.
If it was kinky sex,
If it was near,
that's a completely different
have been a
issue we're talking
problem.
about. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Good work, all 3 of you. Thank you, Rajat, Jeremy, and Nicole, for that report. Obviously, President Drumpf Cheeto is used to getting dragged by fearless boss bitches in the media, but he's not prepared to be literally dragged out of the White House if he won't GTFO on his own. According to some Secret Service tea, one scenario that's been floated, the Secret Service detail charged with guarding Trump would sort of close their eyes while Biden's new Secret Service team comes in and walks Trump out the door. There has also been speculation that the FBI could get involved or that the U.S. Marshal Service could come in and escort Trump out. Okay, listen, I know it's a very exciting thing to imagine, and we liberals have this fantasy of Trump being dragged out of the White House in handcuffs, but let's be realistic. It's simply not going to happen that way. Here's how it is going to happen. At 2300 hours, Trump drifts off to sleep. I am hidden in a bush outside the window, waiting, watching, biding my time. I see his stupid fat orange breathing slow as he enters his first Cheeto-like REM cycle. That's when I make my move. Using the laser scalpel in my utility belt, I cut a tiny size 0 hole through the window and shimmy my little ass through. Once inside the bedroom, I shed my ghillie suit and take out my walkie-talkie. Malala has secured the bag. I repeat, Malala has secured the bag. Over. That's my signal for backup. Lila comes rappelling down from the ceiling. Whee! Peter emerges from his disguise as a painting of George Washington.
I cannot tell a lie, bitch!
And Brian has been doing laps around the perimeter in a golf cart for the past 3 hours to keep watch.
Happy to help.
Just then, Trump wakes up. He looks at me, his Cheeto-esque eyes narrowing, and says, You're the one who's been doing all those viral takedowns of me. And he lunges at me and wraps his tiny hands around my tiny neck. It's tiny versus tiny. All hope is lost. Lila and Peter left to go get bubble tea. But then, bam! Someone kicks down the door and says, Not so fast, Mr. Trump, before landing a flying capoeira kick right to Trump's head, knocking him out cold. I try to stagger to my feet, but I'm dizzy. The mysterious man catches me and cradles me in his arms. Our faces now inches apart. I finally recognize him. Robert Mueller? He says, Hey, kid. I find myself staring at his lips. They're perfect. But then, whack! He crumples to the floor. Behind him, Trump brandishes a golf club. No! I cry. Trump looks at me, a Cheeto-ish glint in his eye, and says, Now that I've got you alone, I will reveal the location of my famous P-tape. It is hidden underneath. But then, he's interrupted by the sound of shattering glass. Lila and Peter are back with reinforcements and their bubble tea.
I got lychee and Peter got honeydew.
In through the shattered bedroom window march Alyssa Milano, AOC, and Chasten Buttigieg. Beto 720 is in on his skateboard. Elizabeth Warren enters, riding Bailey, who rears up on his hind legs, ready for battle. Chasten takes a running leap and jumps onto Trump's shoulders, squeezing his head between his thighs. The Pence fly buzzes back and forth between Trump's eyeballs. AOC looks at me and says, Kylie, now! And I use my scrunchie to tie his hands behind his back. Take him away, Chasten. Chasten, I say. Chasten jumps down and says, my pleasure, but please, call me Ruth. Chasten takes off his mask to reveal that he was none other than Ruth Bader Ginsburg all along.
Yay!
And I'm still in the golf cart during all this?
Ugh, Brian, don't make this all about you. Okay, Nicole, did any of that strike you as liberal fantasy?
It did sound a little bit strange, I have to say.
Yeah, you're right. Beta would probably be busy helping John Ossoff win that runoff, honey.